So, this as we start a new format today, we will be invited. So, we've had a beautiful conversation with Poona right now, just getting some advice and insights on how to keep it simple. So, I think my biggest takeaway is how to keep it simple, how to have a childlike passion and just follow it. And have those barriers as just a little chatter in your mind and just kind of overcome it because it's not supporting me in my dreams. And now, from this mode, we are moving to a panel round where we have another four fantastic guest speakers who have overcome their own summits in their respective field. I'm so happy to have a wide range of talented women here who will be sharing with us how they have broken their own glass ceilings, how they've overcome their own summits, and what insights they can share with us in this journey. So, we'll be exploring themes like fitness and wellness and career growth with our four wonderful speakers over here. Let me just quickly introduce all four of them and then we'll invite them onto the stage. Our first speaker is Dr. Ashu Jain. She's done her nanotechnology PhD from IIT Delhi, and she discovered her passion for fitness and hiking at the age of 56. So we've got two extremes here, breaking the ceiling in terms of fitness at different ages. We have Poorna at 13 and now Dr. Ashu Jain at 56, proving that age is no barrier to pushing one's interest. Dr. Ashu has built a powerful Instagram community of 162,000 followers with a channel name Not Just a Grandma. By the way, my team really loves your channel name. We were just talking about that in the huddle. Her journey of being a digital influencer began when she took up her daughter's challenge of handling her company's social media. And that's a very interesting story. I hope Dr. Anshu shares that, but I just really loved her story on how she kind of smashed her Instagram profile by taking the challenge up. Our second speaker is Urvashi Verma. She is the head of talent acquisition at Xperi. She is not just a diversity and inclusion advocate, but also a public speaker, mentor, patent award winner, LinkedIn content creator, and expert in building tech. Urvashi was awarded as one of the top five diversity champions at Jobs for Hers Diversity Awards 2023. Welcome, Urvashi. Our third speaker is Jasmine Lovely George. Jasmine is a lawyer, sexuality educator, and founder of Hidden Pockets. She has also built tech solutions at Vipassan Care for access to sexual and reproductive health problems. A feminist, a technology enthusiast, and an award winning researcher, Jasmine aims to create a space where young women, technology makers, and policymakers can come together. Wow, that's a beautiful utopia you're bringing together. Thanks, Jasmine. And last but not the least special speaker, Krusha Sejwani Malkani, who's also the director of Sociable. Krusha is an ICF certified career and life coach. She helps women unlock their highest potential through butterfly effect coaching. As a pioneer in employee advocacy, she has grown to know this industry inside and out. Krusha is a LinkedIn top voice and published author. She has authored two books called A Steaming Cup of Tea and Happy Ending. She's also the co founder of The Pink Thread, a forum where people tell stories to drive change and empower women in India's corporate world. Welcome, all of you. It's so wonderful to have all you beautiful ladies here with me today. Hello, Dr. Ashu, Krusha, over to
Hi,
you.
Sandra.
Hello.
And there you go, Jasmine.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, welcome. How are you all feeling after that beautiful chat with Poorna?
More energized.
Expired.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very inspired.
beautiful. It was just goosebumps. I had some goosebumps moments where it was lovely having all of you here. So, Dr. Ash, will start with you first. You've defied stereotypes about age and physical activity because we have stereotypes. When we go move into a certain phase of life, this is the role that we should be doing, which is basically kind of mellowing down and taking it easy. you've defied that. And I was just looking at your Instagram yesterday. You were like pumping it there with Zumba. I'm like, I'm going to join you and get that energy. So, how has your journey in fitness evolved? Where did that start from? What inspired you to take that up now? And what advice do you have women to prioritize fitness later in life?
See, what triggered was the menopause issues that generally come up, and the usual lifestyle disorders that women have at this age because of inactivity. My BP shot up, and cholesterol was going up, and the weight was going up. And after not being overweight throughout my life, I was finding it kind of unnatural. It was something which came as a surprise, a shock to me. So I wanted to get that corrected. So I went to the doctor, and the first thing I told him was that this is a lifestyle disorder. I understand. I was talking about the BP part, and I know the right lifestyle can also rectify that. So you tell me any lifestyle changes that I should take up, but I'm not ready for lifelong medications. So he said, okay. Then he prescribed medicines accordingly, and he just told me to quit eating bahar ka khana and to start walking. So that was a blessing in disguise. That was the COVID times, and there was a lockdown with no help coming up, and all the kids, grandkid, dog, everybody at home. So मुझे देखते ही सबको चाय याद आती थी, and for me that something like okay, my free time, I would just go out of the house, and the walks started getting longer. And it was not only I used to enjoy the walks, and the medicines, I was off the medicines within 15 days, and they never came back. And once I started walking, then it is I think the healthy habits have a way of stacking up. So I started researching a bit on what healthy changes women over 50 need to make. And everywhere, wherever I read, it was strength training, something, a concept Indian women are not exposed to. So I started with the options that I had. I started with online body weight exercises, and gradually all my pains that I used to have, lower back pain and cervical pain, my right shoulder was not moving much. I did take physiotherapy before I went on to the exercises, but then they went and they never came back. So for me, that became an addiction because, young people don't appreciate being healthy that much because they've not seen the other side of it. I had seen the other side of it when I was not pain free. I was not able to move enough. I did not have the energy. And I was so relishing it now. I was so grateful for it now. So that is how, I took to hiking, everything, because it was something, it seemed like a gift to me now, what I was taking for granted all my life before that. So
Yeah.
that is how it started.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. Dr. Shu, people, appreciate when it's taken away from you. And that's why
Yes,
now we feel those days where we are pain free, it seems so beautiful days, which, in our young days, it was every day, which we didn't even think
yes,
twice about it. Yeah, and that's a great message is don't wait for anything to be broken. Just start early. Start early. Prevention is, like they say, is always better than cure. But more than that, I see the fun that you have exercising. My God, if nothing else, people go to her Instagram and do it for the fun. The various strength training and Zumba that you go through. I think you've built a great community. You've got a great coach for yourself. But that's super energizing. So I'm going to move to Jasmine now, and just kind of shifting gears a little bit on a different angle of fitness. I know, Jasmine, with your work with Hidden Pockets, you've undoubtedly encountered various misconceptions and myths surrounding sexual and reproductive health. Could you share some of these myths or misunderstanding that women have expressed when seeking support in these areas?
Thank you so much, Sandra. So I grew up in Delhi, and I think I always used to think that if you're in the city and if you're educated, you have access to all this information on the internet. It's easy. So it's only when it happened to me when I was going to doctor and I was not able to articulate like this is what I want, this is what is the kind of service I want. I realized education is not enough, and this is something I've encountered across with women who come asking for services. So simple thing like I missed my periods. मुझे लगता है मैं pregnant हूँ. So people directly jump into the extreme that can happen to us because That's the worst thing a woman can think, as a young person who's not married. So simple things like this, I don't know how to read pregnancy test kit. It might sound very silly, but when you're going through a crisis, there's nobody you can talk to. So am I pregnant? My periods, the color of my discharge, my body is changing. Nobody told me what will happen to me after 25. When Dr. Anshu was, talking about what happens post 50, nobody talks about what happens 20s, 30s. Women just don't know. We just, we go through one phase to another, and we just assume that everybody went through, and it's normal. And the very fact that it's okay for women to go through periods, and that's pain and periods, and that's something we have been really trying hard to, break. It's
Mm.
not okay. Women should not be suffering physical pain. It's not okay, and health has to become a priority. And it's okay to be,
Mm.
selfish and demand for the fact that I am not feeling okay. Maybe I don't know enough, and it's okay to go ahead and ask for services. So, periods, sexual health, reproductive health, the very fact that even if you're not married, you can go for a checkup and just, know your options, know your
Yeah.
basket of services. So I can
Yeah.
go on with this, but what I've really
True.
noticed is just that a lot of fear. What will people say if I go and ask these questions to anybody out there?
Yeah. 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 When you were saying this, Jasmine, I was just remembering had gone for this talk. It was a global talk I had gone for. One of the panelists couldn't make it for our talk, and she had flown from India to Australia for the talk, and she couldn't make it at the panel. So it was a huge distance she covered, and couldn't even come there. And later on, we found out that she had massive flow happening, and so she couldn't even stand and attend something that she came all the way for. And these things are usually not discussed. Nobody knew about it. We knew about it because we checked in and asked for it. How do we, and I know there are countless women going through this in organizations. And especially, I know Dr. Ashu talked about menopause, so perimenopausal also. You have these kind of conversations happening. That's a massive hormonal shift happening there. We're talking about having women at leadership positions, right? We're talking about gender equity there. But there are all these battles that are also being fought internally when your body's at that moment going through this hormonal roller coaster, and at times you're not able to stand, and you're going through all kinds of emotions at that point. How does so one you spoke, Jasmine, is we taking up, raising a hand, going and asking for help. Second is in organizations, what can we do to kind of take away those taboo or have things in place where it seems normal to have these conversations?
So I do think a lot of organizations, and I do give credit to corporates for that, they are trying to make a difference. They are trying to make infrastructure changes. They're actually trying to make it into a design problem. So I do think the very fact that, if women are menstruating during certain days, and if they have comfortable chairs, if they have places to, just rest, a sick room or a lounge room, and where it's okay, where they have, even things like what you are eating, food. I sometimes feel like most of our architecture building is, built in a certain way, and it's built for certain bodies. Women's body is not the first category they think about. So they might sound like a very small thing, but the very fact that if in your story, if the panelists had heavy flow, if there was a way she was able to sit and talk, there could is an infrastructure thing, and people are
Mm,
making a difference where they're saying that let's think it from a design perspective, how by changing the office infrastructure, how by making
yeah.
even the language of inclusivity, the very
Mm,
fact that a person can say that, I am not well. We start with the language of not well to reaching where, I am bleeding, and maybe for the next few hours I won't be able to do it, but maybe
yeah.
after some time. So these
Yeah.
are very small little things, but just pushing for this just makes more and more women to come and take the spaces of, instead of,
Yeah.
dropping out because they
Yeah.
were not able to attend something.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I just walked into a client's office in Bangalore the other week, and I saw a women's sick room, and I just smiled and said, "This reminds me of school because we used to have sick room in school." And I'm so happy to see women's sick room and men's sick room at work because when I was working, we didn't have any sick room, and so we had to figure our way out. So this is another way of opening doors. Say, hey, you're not feeling well. It can happen suddenly. You have that private space there to go and take it easy. I love that. Moving to Krusha. Hi. As a LinkedIn top voice and published author, Krusha, you've established yourself as a thought leader in your field. How do you navigate challenges such as imposter syndrome or self doubt? And what advice do you offer women who encounter this in their lives?
Thank you firstly for being here. I'm just loving listening to everything. It's almost like I forgot I have to speak. Um, I'd say the first thing I really hated, I coach women every day, and when most women will come and say I'm a procrastinator or I have imposter syndrome, and I think that's the first problem we have, making it part of our identity. You don't realize you need to stop and think back on when did this become part of my identity, when did I start introducing myself as, this is me, I have two children, I have this, and I'm a procrastinator. It's almost like become part of your identity. So I'd say that's step one. You don't procrastinate for no reason. You don't have imposter syndrome for no reason. I believe in changing the narrative there as much as possible. So when you talk about imposter syndrome, I like thinking of it as you're only going to feel out of place or like you really want to do this for two reasons. Either you're jealous, in even jealousy, like as a it gets a negative connotation. If I'm jealous of something, I need to do the inner work to stop and say, what am I jealous of? It's not that I'm jealous of this person. I'm jealous of the joy they have, or I'm jealous of the fact that they don't need to wake up at this time and they can, do what they want. And those are the things. So then it's internal work there. Same with imposter syndrome. When you feel like you're not good enough, the first thing is, where do you feel it? If I go into a room of accountants, I'm not going to feel imposter syndrome, even though I'm not as good as them, because I
Mhm.
don't care about it. I don't really want to be a good accountant. So I'd say first, great news. If you're feeling imposter syndrome, you care about something, you want to get better at that. So the first thing is there, right? And then you start doing the work from there and saying, okay, what is it that makes me feel like I'm not good enough here? Is it something people have said? Usually, even if someone says something, they can say three things, only one of them will trigger you. Why? There's probably some level of insecurity with that. Today, if you tell me something about my weight, for example, it won't bother me because that's not a personal insecurity for me. If you tell me something about my skin, it will bother me because I have psoriasis, and that's a insecurity that I have had, right? So
Mm.
I think this is just example, but that's where I would like to start. There's no one size fits all answer to that. It's not. It's about taking that self doubt, that imposter syndrome, breaking it and seeing what does that word mean to you, where is it coming from, and now there's a solution. Now how do I start working on bridging that gap so I don't feel it anymore eventually?
Yeah, yeah. I love the way you use the example of the I don't care to be the best accountant, so I shouldn't feel insecure here. And it connected me to what Purna said, her first commandment, I am inferior to no one. So if there's
So
anything
powerful.
that we talk about imposter syndrome, and anytime this pops up, and it will pop up because like you said, it's connected with some insecurities, and we have something
Yeah.
in our life experiences. So when that comes up, we just tell ourselves that I am inferior to no one. And I think that's a great way of,
Exactly. It's so beautiful. And I love that the example you took of Purna. I'm just going to spend 10 more seconds. It's such a good example to say 20 people may have heard that sentence and they've all taken away something different from that. Someone who doesn't care, fitness is not important to them right now, they could walk away without feeling like, if you tell them you would never be able to climb that mountain, they could laugh about it and not care. Someone
yeah.
would feel like, oh, and it would hurt them that they're not, because they really want to change that, lean into that and start working on getting better. That's another example.
Yeah, absolutely. Lean in. Thank you, Krusha. I'll move to Urvashi now. And Urvashi, I love this last question for this round for you because I'm connecting it to this year's IWD theme also, which is about inspiring inclusion. And as a DEI advocate and a DEI leader in organizations, what do you feel? What are the two things an organization can do, or two things that people can do to truly inspire inclusion at workplace?
Yeah, thanks, Sandra. I think that's a great question, and we all should think about this. That we, at an individual level, what we can do. But I'll start first with what employers can do. I'm happy that nowadays employers are taking a lot of a step in creating an inclusive and diverse place. The topmost thing, what I can think that employers should be focusing on first to start their journey into DEI, to implement inclusive policies and practices. So I get this question from many people when I go to some events, or when I talk about it, that what kind of policies we should implement. Firstly, we should not be focusing on any particular policy to implement to promote inclusion, but our all policies should be inclusive. The policies should be designed that everybody can take advantage of that. So it has to be in this thought process. Actually, inclusion is a thought process which has to be integrated with all the policies. There should be definitely flexibility at workplace, so that people can log in, log out at any time, and be responsible for their work. Now we are working in hybrid and work from home kind of a setup, most of the organization working. We should divert our focus from the number of hours we are spending in the organization, but we should focus more on what kind of a quality contribution each employee is making. So that has to be there. Plus, employers should encourage the equal opportunity of growth and learning and development to everybody. Everybody could get the equal amount of opportunities to showcase their expertise. Other than that, we they should actually always focus on creating an inclusive culture, and it has to be a top down approach. The leaders are basically responsible for uh, making a culture by living those values, by living those cultural values every day at the workplace. They should actually walk the talk and not only talking about what should we do. uh, at the employee or individual level, what they can do, first of all, they should not think that they cannot contribute with a single step. If each one of us is making a single step, that is going to make a big impact in the community. And everybody should start thinking about how they themselves can contribute. They should educate themselves on a regular basis to avoid their personal biases, to be more educated about what underrepresented communities are going through and how they can help them. They can be an ally, they can be supportive to them, they can talk about whenever they see any discriminatory behavior, they can present their ideas better, they can be there, just be there with the community to hear them out. Unless you hear them, you won't be able to understand what challenges they are facing on a day to day basis. So just hear them out, being an ally, and try to support as much as you can, instead of thinking that as an individual you cannot contribute. From my personal experience only, when I talk about these things openly and I share that I'm here to support whatever best I can do, I get a lot of people reaching out to me through personal messages, through LinkedIn, and I share my thoughts with them, whatever advice I can give them, whatever career advice basically they ask me, and I can guide them at my best. So doing this itself is kind of a creating a inclusive culture at the community level, not only at the organization. So individual are making more impact, and definitely I am very happy that all the organization are working towards DEI journey, and they are taking smaller steps as a group of employers, and not competing with each other. So
Yeah.
it's a contribution of everybody in creating a inclusive environment everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you, Rishi. There's so much talk happening, and I always say DI is such a broad umbrella. You can do so much, but just start with these two small things, which is just hearing people, allowing people to speak up, and then you can make massive steps from there. So thank you for sharing that, Rishi. I'm going to zero back to you, Dr. Ashu, and this time I'm going to talk about ageism. I remember when I was coaching this leader here in Australia a couple of years ago, and she talked about uh, in DI, and we were just talking about overview in DI. We talk about so much, especially gender. Gender becomes like the biggest talk time when you're looking at gender equality, and then now we're also looking at LGBTQI plus and people from PWD, etc. But she felt, ageism is not spoken enough in organizations.
Yeah.
And then after a certain level, people assume that they won't be able to catch up to maybe technology trends or the speed of catching up to how the world is moving, and so it's assumed that people at a certain age may not be technology first or advanced in that sense. I love the way you've kind of broken that um, myth by taking up an M.Tech course at the age of 44. What
Yes.
what motivated you to embark on that journey?
Well, first thing, I take my bucket list very seriously. Like, it is not just a wish. I take them very seriously, and I'm very vocal about them also. So, like, after my BTech, I was teaching at a college, at a polytechnic, but gave it up because of like, I wanted to bring up my children myself. That was my decision. So, but then that regret was also there because I never really thought that my stay at home mom phase would last that long, because there were three kids spread over a decade, and then raising them up. And but somehow I never felt it was a full stop. I always considered that as a comma, but that comma kept on, getting pushed off. So, but that regret was also always there. And when my eldest daughter, she was applying for colleges, and we were going through the prospectus, so I started looking up at the MTech courses also. And it was my kids who said ki, instead of repenting, why don't you start thinking of resuming your education now? So for a second, like, I thought ki, at age of 44, but then I thought, why not? So that is how my MTech started. And it was, I would say, a very nice experience, because there was a very shock value attached to it when I went to the college, and there were kids my kids age who were my classmates. So initially it was that, but after that you have to prove your worth also, because half the time the teachers also expect you to be not so serious. Because even at the time of interview, I was asked this question, that I would be wasting a seat, that how could I be serious about it after not having worked for 22 years and being back to education. So I told them, if I could clear the entrance, that means I've studied for that, I'm serious enough for that, and I want to study. But then you have to prove yourself at every step, because younger youngsters, nobody looks at them. But if you are breaking the stereotypes, you have all eyes on you. They're always evaluating you. But then in MTech I scored well. Then when I went to my MTech, this thing project work was at IIT Delhi. And there I told my professors who were guiding me that I wanted to do PhD at IIT Delhi. And there also, the how the screening criteria is that you have to first clear the interview, and then some guide has to agree to mentor you. Only then you'll get admitted for PhD course. So I moved it the other way around. First, I got a commitment from my professors that he will be ready to guide me if I'm able to clear the interview and everything. So that is how I started. And there also, I had 1.5 years to prove myself. I would go to that lab every day without any PhD, without anything, just to prove myself that I am capable of working hard. And then only, the PhD started. For coursework also, the same thing. I was in a class where, for a course, there are BTech students, MTech students, and then PhD students. And it's a huge class of about 200 people, and that can be very intimidating. So I would sit at the front of the class because, first of all, I did not have any friends. And then it made me feel safer having to look only at the professor and no other classmates of mine. So that was my comfort, and I would always come prepared for the class. Because one, as I said, same as for fitness, if you get something after such a huge struggle, you value that a lot. So after every class, before the next class, I would read up all my lectures, be prepared for that. I was a bad guy in the class. Whenever the professor said where I was the last time, and I would remind them. So my, my kids would say, your classmates must be throwing darts at your face. You must be the most hated person in the class. But there I was. So I scored a perfect 10 in my coursework. So
Uh-huh.
that really gave me such a lot of confidence that you can hold on and you can stand up against anything if you have the will to do that. So as
Mhm.
Purna said, you have to work hard. I worked extra hard just to prove myself that I was serious, and I was here to pursue my dreams. So I did it, and for even for my PhD, I got the distinction in doctoral thesis. So I really feel that I made my professors proud, my family proud. So that gives me such a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, I can feel the energy, Dr. Ashu, when you're talking about it so passionate. Prove myself, I'm
I
first there.
I
Yeah,
am
I don't know.
actually feeling proud listening to her.
am. Thank
I
you.
know. I know we've been inspired from left to right in the last 1 hour. In fact, Dr. Ashu, our youngest team member who's 70 years old in our company, Nandita Acharya, she's super thrilled to kind of hear you be here. And she's also a grandma and multiple grandchildren. And she's the most energetic, and she's the one who leads the morning exercise for all of us when we get into a daily huddle. So,
I
and
can
you
relate to
inspiring
that.
us. Yeah, you inspiring us. They say they're good years ahead of us, ladies. They're good years ahead. All right. I want to move to Urvashi now. And Urvashi again zeroing into professional women. And I know there is still debate happening about work from home and hybrid, etc. And I know a lot of women are working from home because they need to manage little children, etc. Yeah, me too. And I've got a huge team of women who are also working from home. But I also know the fact that there is proximity biases. When you are surrounded by people at work, you tend to also give more projects to them and talk to them, and that's why I said bias. It could be unconscious as well. How do women who are working from home overcome these proximity biases? What are the one or two things they can do to keep putting themselves up there in the conversations in the big picture?
So a lot of responsibility lies with the team leader as well, you know. But that's a separate thing. We will talk about what as an individual who is working remotely, especially a woman, can do. So I would suggest them to have regular conversation with their managers, with their team. Be open to participate in different projects, different activities. Be vocal. Always share that what you have achieved. Your achievement should be recognized, and when you are seen as a valued person in the team, then you will be out of that proximity bias that you are not able to contribute, or you are not available. You must be at home or doing something. It is not the right time to call you. Things like that will be definitely avoided. So be vocal all the time, that even if you are not available during the working hours for the various reason because of which you have chosen remote working, you are contributing 100%. You are fully closely your daily task, and things are not lagging because of you not being available in the office. So always be there, always talk about your achievements, uh, participate, and don't underestimate yourself. Maybe there could be, on a real time scenario, we can hear people thinking that, or sometimes the team members are very vocal and they say that, okay, you are not here, we will take care of this. And out of empathy, they show this as an empathy, that okay, you have some concern, that's why you are working remotely, so it's okay, you need not to be participating in this activity, we will take care of this. But but we as an employee should be always contributing our part. Whatever
Mhm.
reasons are there, we should be flexible on the timing. And if your organization is definitely supporting you with the flexible work time, you should
Mhm.
manage your work accordingly. You should not be changing your daily timing of work very frequently. Make sure that your team is aware that, okay, in the morning you are always available during this time, in the afternoon that is your working time, in the evening that is your working time. I don't encourage people to work from morning to night, but I know that people are choosing remote working because they have some concerns at home, something to look after at home, and due to which they have to distribute their time between their work and their responsibilities. So choose your time accordingly, and make sure that your family and your team members are aware of these practices what you are following. So
Mhm.
when you are when you have communicated your working time, your contributions, your willingness to participate, I think you will be valued and you will be heard. And
Mhm.
anytime if you face any challenge, just talk about it.
Yeah. If I love the point about communicating more and talking about your achievements, because very often we sit with the mind trap that our work will speak for itself.
Yeah.
It's very challenging if you're also working from home and expecting your work to speak for yourself. It doesn't work like that in the real world.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself out there,
Yeah.
use technology. We have the Zooms
Mm.
and Google Meets of the world,
Yeah.
using that, just continuously communicating, putting ourselves out there, even raising and taking up big projects to kind of take care of proximity bias, because it is there. Proximity bias is there. It is
Yeah.
natural. Yes, a lot of work needs to be done by the managers as well to try and not have it. But like I said, it always take care of yourself first. It starts
Yeah.
with me. You do whatever you
Yeah.
need to do to make that.
Yeah. Agree.
Beautiful. Moving to Jasmine now. I want to talk about the pressures that as women we hold a lot of roles. Of course, we talked enough about professional roles, but we also look at as caregivers for our children, and sometimes also for our parents and in-laws, and also for members of our community. In managing all these roles, and they're all full-time roles, what are the one or two things you can recommend women to prioritize or can do to prioritize on their own inner wellness and self care amongst all of these demands?
That's a huge, big ask question. But I really believe in something called energy management and being honest with oneself. Um, Even, the very language of wellness, I always feel like it's a very privileged thing. Not everybody can speak the language of wellness. But whenever we are working with our communities, with women, I always tell them that even if you're able to take 15 minutes away in a day for yourself, we are able to just sit, meditate if you can do meditation. If not, just 15 minutes of just not doing anything. It is hard because a lot of us, especially women, we are guilt driven that we are not productive enough, we are not achieving enough. There's a lot of guilt around all these things. So, energy management as a skill is something I have been practicing. I have been asking my community, people I do trainings with, even individual, when clients come in, figure out an energy management. Which are the tasks which give you energy? Which are the tasks which takes energy from you? Who are the people who give add energy? Who are the people who take away energy? This is also helps in self awareness in a way. Start with that whole journey because it's a long term thing. We have to be around till 70, 75, 80, reading, studying, doing a lot of, we have to climb so many mountains. So for that we have to be very choosy about our energy. So that's something I really feel like, if you have figured out your energy management, then this is how much
Hmm.
I can give my personal capacity, this is how much I can give my professional. I'll give an example. As women age, I've always noticed that somehow the social circles start becoming smaller, and it's just your career and then your family. And it's unbearable how lonely women become after a certain age. You don't have friends anymore, you don't have anybody with whom you rant, you don't have anybody with whom you just go for travel, just the luxury of just running away, just escape. And it's also because we slowly start thinking that no, enough, you don't keep space for fun, you don't keep space for just pleasure.
Yeah.
Energy management helps with that, where you're keeping some time for fun, some time for rest, some time for care. And these are very difficult things because from guilt to pleasure is a long trip. I keep saying that bahut dur ki baat hai pleasure. Let's start with just not having guilt. Slowly, the very fact that people are doing zumba just for fun, women are just going 1 hour of Zumba dancing as a community, as a collective effort. It's a huge task keeping 1 hour from the day for yourself and doing that.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
something I've seen working out. But yeah, I do think as a concept to change, make people and demand, it will be a long term. But this is something I've seen working out for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. I know you started with this, that this is such a big question, but you've given a big answer, Jasmine. You've given so many solutions to
No,
it.
I said big because I struggle with it. Like I am guilty of being a workaholic. I'm guilty of being, believing that no, we haven't achieved anything. Rest, you haven't earned your rest until I got burnt out. Then I realized this is
Yeah.
making no sense. The thing is, I always felt like I wanted to be a man. To prove yourself successful, you start behaving like a man, and everything you hated about that culture, you become that because there's no other way of doing it. So I
Yeah.
had to, stop and figure out maybe there can be a different way of doing the same thing. You can be ambitious and still be kind. There
Yeah.
are different ways. It's just that there are not enough conversations around it.
That's true. That's true. Although I'm very glad there are some conversations now coming onto it, because 20 years ago when I wanted to be a leader, the only way I could think was emulate the male leader. Because that's what a leader's supposed to be. Go out there, be aggressive, know all the answers, be assertive. And now I think we're having a lot of conversations that's bringing different kinds of leadership styles and for all genders as well. So I don't want to kind of typecase any gender. But I love that long trip between guilt to pleasure. Don't just take one step at a time. You don't have to kind of jump to the other side of the pendulum. Just like take the quick step. Beautiful. Last question for Krusha, and then we'll open the questions for the audience as well. Um, Krusha, again, it's a little similar to Jasmine's question, but the concept of having it all can mean different things to different people. Some people say, women can't have it all. Some said, yes, of course they can have it all. It's at different timings. How do you approach this concept, and how do you help women define and prioritize their own version of successes?
I love that question because it's what drives me to coach. So for me, coaching women is about helping them find their version of it all, because there is so much noise, as you said, about can you have it all, women cannot have it all. My question, what is all? Right? Exactly to what Jasmine said, it's almost like now you're expected to do everything a woman was doing, continue doing it, and then also do everything a man used to do. You do that also now, right? It's almost like sometimes I feel it comes and bites you when the whole conversation saying, I want to work, I want to do, because you can't do everything, right? So my answer to that is, can you have it all? Yes, I 100% feel every woman can have it all, but you can have your own version of it all. You can't have everyone's own version of it all, because then you're expecting a woman who looks amazing all the time, is absolutely in the best shape and fitness of her life, has the best social circle, is raising her kids. Not just, firstly, there's thousand opinions on that as well now, how you need to do it, and then you need to also have a career and be CEO. And everything is, you need that. So the first step I feel is just defining, taking a step back and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to sit down and decide what do I want. And the way I like explaining it is, think about this: you go to a buffet, and there's multiple dishes. There's small starters, there's main courses of different cuisines, there's desserts. Can you eat all the quantity of every dish there? I really don't think anyone can, right? So everyone's gonna walk in. Someone will be like, you know what, I am only gonna do starters and dessert. Someone is gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna only have the Chinese, and I'm not really interested in the Indian cuisine, right? That's not what I want to have. So that's my point, that we need to allow and like bring this idea forward, that we get, what is feminism or what is women empowerment to me is just equality in choice and opportunity, that you have access to that whole buffet, that you have entered that buffet and you have access to every cuisine and every dessert and every starter, and you have a plate, but you get to decide now what are you going to put into that plate and how much of each thing. Some people want to have a little bit of everything, and some people want to have a lot of one thing and not of the other thing, and both are okay. So just sitting down and defining that, to me, is the first step. And I think it's the only way for us to truly be happy, because the answer is not to be a successful, exhausted woman. I don't think that's the answer, right? That the answer is to be a fulfilled, happy, healthy woman, and whatever that looks like to you. If that looks like being CEO, great. If this looks like having 4 kids and still having a career, great. If that looks like having one kid and not having a career for a bit and then having a career, that's why I love listening to. We need to encourage these different journeys. We've only seen one version of this. We need several versions
Yeah.
of this buffet. So that's all I'll say for now. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I I love the one line that you said, just made it crystal clear about having it all. You just go to a buffet and you have it all. Simple as that. No, you cannot. Your body cannot have it all.
You'll
So
get sick.
such is life. Yeah, such is life. Life is full of choices. And that's what you have, is the choice in that moment. What do you want to take for yourself? And that's having it all. It's just kind of changing the perception of it. Thank you for sharing such beautiful insights, all of you. I mean, I'm just kind of trying to scribble as much as possible. And then I realized this is recorded, so I can go through it all again. But there's lovely insights from fitness to breaking stereotypes to wellness to health to professionalism. I want to go move to some of the questions that we've got. Really interesting questions. I'm sharing the first question right now from Shraddha for Dr. Ashu. You're an inspiration. What are some creative ways to integrate physical activity into busy schedules, especially for women with demanding professionals or caregiving responsibilities?
Here, I would start with Krusha's advice. You can't have it all. So, you have to let go of a few things to include some new things in your life. Like for me, it was giving up almost totally on television, on cutting down on my social circle, which was a blessing in disguise. That is such an energy saver. If you really, from a crowd to zeroing in on a team. So that is an approach that has really worked for me. And that started from even when I was doing my PhD. I needed to conserve my energy. So you can always find time. And as Krusha said, build your own list of what you want to include and have it all. You can do it.
Beautiful. Thank you. This next question will probably be for you, Jasmine. How do we get men to understand the different phases that come in the life of a woman?
So I want to give a very positive response to this. I run a care chat, Vipassy and care chat. It's a WhatsApp based solution. And I just want to say this 60% of our clients are men who come for their partners. They come for their girlfriends and their wives asking, period is delayed, she wants an abortion, she's not doing well. So it's actually already started. Men do talk. Men, they do want their partners and their wives, their girlfriends to be, safe, happy. So it's definitely there, but definitely also having the conversation. Like, I'll give an example. I work out of WeWork, and I find it like a little surprising that girls tell each other, women tell each other, I'm just taking a break, but they don't tell the male colleagues who are sitting next to them. So I always say that, I'm menstruating, so I might be a little off. Please do not disturb me. I might be a little irritated today. And I think that really sets the conversation. Then they'll be like, okay, we are understanding. Because,
Hmm.
everybody has ups and downs. So
Yeah.
we also have to start the conversation. But I see great fathers. I mean, I actually have more hope from our generation who are raising amazing kids, amazing boys and girls and amazing fathers doing great job. This is me really being positive out here. So I do
Yeah.
want to say that. But
Yeah.
yes, having the conversation, men are doing and they want to, because now,
Yeah.
you don't have the baggage of the previous generation where they had to, make a lot of money. Now we have money. Now we're working on values. What can we pass it on to the next generation? So
Hmm.
I would say
Hmm.
just have the conversation and just articulate because they are
Yeah.
willing to listen now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the way is you've seen some people come with their boyfriends or partners and all take them to a safe space and have conversation. They maybe at home is not a great place. Go to a place where they see other men and kind of have those conversations as well. Beautiful. I have another one. Who's this for? From Ankita. For women who don't have access to childcare or feel unsupported at home, what tips can you offer for navigating work demands while managing household responsibilities? I'll leave this question open for anyone to pick it up.
Maybe I can start, and if someone wants to add, because this is something again, because as I'm coaching women, I feel like this is something that comes up, the whole work-life balance question. And again, I feel the first thing here is to take stock of how much support you have or not, and accept that. That's first thing. We need to accept and be real that not everyone has the same amount of privilege or the same amount of care. So when I talk about my story, for example, each time I get every time I get a message saying it's really inspiring to see you're doing it all with a 1 year old, etc. And I have to say that it comes with, I live with my in-laws, I can afford a nanny, I have work from home, my mother stays 2 buildings away. Okay, this is a lot of privilege. So the first thing that I would say the first step is just take stock of how much support you have. What does that support allow for realistically with you being sane, right? Staying sane and staying healthy. Does that allow for maybe you to work but you need to freelance instead of working? Does that allow for having a conversation at the place you're at, but saying, I'm going to only be able to work for these many hours, but I want to work on good projects? It could be multiple directions. Does it mean it's a sign for you to start your own thing, but you have the support to do it as long as it's a flexibility of hours, or do you not have energy? Right? Like as Jasmine was saying, it's about energy, time, money. We need to look at all these realistically and say, okay, where do we stand? And now, given this, what can I do right now? And then the acceptance, like Dr. Ash is such a great example. I think we put so much pressure because people in society and with CVs also put pressure on gaps, etc., things like that. But you get to design your own journey. It may not always be the easiest, but you take control and say, this is where I'm at now, this is what I can do. And but that doesn't mean it's a full stop, as Dr. Ash. It could be a comma, or it could be you find a way to do part of it now itself, right? You could have different answers.
Hmm. Yeah, I love the way you just take stock of the reality where you are right now and then see what you want to do from there. I'll just pick up the last question, and this is for Urvashi. Um, there are many women who struggle with being assertive vocally on a call or something. What advice would you give them for them to make their presence felt in virtual meetings and discussions and decision making processes?
So in all the virtual meetings, it's a very basic thing, but I encourage everybody to be on a video call. Never keep your cameras off. Never keep yourself muted. Whatever you are saying, if you are hesitant, practice that. Practice that in advance. That you want to say all these things to your managers. Note down your pointers. What all things you wanted to discuss with your managers or with your team members. It happens. It's very common, and it's not not that only few women are going through that. Many, almost 90% women are hesitant in talking about themselves, sharing their achievements. So listing down, practicing about that is definitely going to help. And you talk to your friends, talk to your partners, talk to your family members first. If you are hesitant, tell them that you want to showcase all these achievements to your managers. Is that okay? And they can give you the right feedback. Talk to the people where you feel safe, where you think that you are going to get the right advice. So there are most of the time, with that hesitation, we are not able to articulate the best way we are supposed to be. And even if we achieved a lot, it just go very normal. Okay, this was a not that big thing. So always make sure that you have a strategy when you are going to a meeting to present yourself. So make that a strategy, list down your pointers, practice about that, and just forget, because nothing is going to change. If you're not talking, they won't never get to know that what you did. But if you are talking, if they like it, it's good. If they're not
Yeah,
liking it, that's also fine.
yeah.
Just don't think about it a lot. Start
Hmm.
talking. Start with the small steps.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that small steps bit. Um, wow, this 1 hour has just flown by. There's such beautiful wisdoms coming from you. Dr. Ashu, you picking up how it's never too late to pick up health. It should be on your bucket list and go after a lot of passion and just go ahead and improve yourself. I love those messages from you, Krusha, in terms of redefining what having it all means and making that happen by making those choices and going after what you want in life and just doing that. Jasmine, from your end, and looking at what is your energy management, is that's what self-care is about. Find out who's giving you energy, what's draining energy, and take that step from guilt to pleasure, one step at a time in that. And Urvashi, you about how women can support themselves and speak up and claim the space at work. There's so much of richness in this room here. I just love it. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here and sharing your wisdoms. And there were great insights for everyone. I think it just went beyond gender as well. And I think we were all able to take a lot more from our conversation today. Is there anything that any last words anyone would like to share?
I just want to publicly maybe say this because I will say it privately. But Dr. Ashu, thank you, because it's so inspiring to hear your story.
Thank
And
you
I
so
want to
much.
thank you for the work you're doing, because I think what you see, like when you see a mother also being able to work, more people feel inspired. When you see someone at your age doing this, you look forward to what's to come instead of feeling like I have to cramp in my entire life in this one decade. I think it's so
I'll share
inspiring,
one
so
thing here.
thank you.
I'll share one thing here which really touched my heart. Like recently, somebody posted something about me on the story, and my daughter reposted it with a caption, "Mama, आपने हमारा नाम रोशन कर दिया." That really
Oh,
touched my heart.
that is the biggest compliment one can get.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. I do want to thank my audience. I know Kavita, you've put in a lot of comments here. Everyone will get a chance to go through it. And she's been kind of talking about each one of you as you're putting your insight. She's been cheerleading you here, there, and Amit as well. I wish I could read all these comments right now, but these comments are going to be there. So all the speakers will be able to see this in LinkedIn. That's the beauty about the live over here. Thank you, everyone who's there listening now in the live and also in the recorded later on, for your time. I hope all of you went back with a lot of insights. I've had in the last 1.5 hours, I've had a lot of goosebump moments, right from Pune to all our four wonderful ladies here. If anyone wants to find out more about what women leadership is all about, there's a scan over here. Feel free to scan and understand Evolve, which is award-winning women leadership program. Please do follow our wonderful speakers here: Purna, Dr. Ashu, Krusha, Urvashi, Jasmine. They're on LinkedIn. We will be putting up their profiles as well, their Instagram and LinkedIn profiles. There's so much richness. Like I said, I'd already checked out their profiles before I came. I kind of enjoyed the content that they put there. Thank you once again for being here, for celebrating the International Women's Day month, for making inclusion real and making the world better one step at a time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sandra, and happy Women's Month to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Yeah.